Good evening, everyone. Good. Thank you. I'd like to welcome members and officers to this Overview and Scrutiny Committee meeting, and welcome as well anyone watching online. So before the meeting starts, I'm going to invite the committee to explain how proceedings will work and to undertake a roll call of those attending online as well.
Good evening. Can I confirm the following officers joining remotely are in attendance and can hear us and we can hear them? Chris Jeffrey.
Good evening, present.
Good evening, thank you. Are there any other officers in attendance remotely tonight that I haven't called out? No. Okay. Rules of debate. If a member wishes to speak, they should use the speak button located on the microphone unit. The microphone will light up green and the chair will be alerted of your request to speak. When the chair invites you to speak, your microphone will be made live and will turn red, at which point you can speak. The normal procedural rules in respect of debate and times to speak will apply. When requested to vote, voting will be via the yes, no, abstain buttons on your microphone unit. Details of how members voted will be shown on the screens around the room and the result will be visible on the YouTube stream. In the event of a tied vote, the chair will have the casting vote. Are there any questions before we start the meeting? No, I will now hand back to the chair.
Thank you. Apologies for absence have been received from Councillors Dominic Griffiths and Ralph Munzer, and having given due notice, Councillor Matt Barnes has substituted for Councillor Griffiths. Are there any further apologies? In that case, let's move on to the minutes of the Overview and Scrutiny Committee held on 11th March and 6th of May 2025. And I would like to propose that we take as read and approve as a true record the minutes of the meetings of the Overview and Scrutiny Committee held on 11th March and 6th May. May I please have a seconder?
Happy to second.
Thank you, John. Are there any comments on the minutes? In that case, I think we can move to a vote.
That motion is carried, Chair.
Thank you. Item number 3 is notification of other business, and no other business has been notified. And then item 4 is the chair's announcements in 4 parts. Number 1, in accordance with council policy, this meeting is being audio recorded as well as filmed. The recording will be available on the council's YouTube channel, as well as on the council's ModGov site, alongside the documents from this meeting. Part 2, members are reminded to make declarations of interest before an item. The detailed reminder about this and speaking rights is set out under the chair's announcements on your agendas. Item 3, for the purposes of clarification, 4.823A of the Constitution does not apply to this meeting. Therefore, a member may leave the room during the debate and consideration of that item and still be able to vote. However, please do be mindful of the business on the agenda and wherever possible, leave at an appropriate point in the proceedings. And fourthly, members are reminded that we have adopted a scrutiny charter which outlines how we conduct scrutiny at North Arts Council, including the need for independence, initiative and integrity. It's important that all members are mindful of this in how they approach the items found on the agenda tonight and at future meetings. And you can see full details on the adopted charter on the council's intranet page for members. Item 5 on the agenda is public participation, and there is no public participation. Item 6, there are no urgent and general exception items. There are no called in items, number 7. And as far as I know, there are no members' questions, which is item 8, which means we can move straight on to item 9, which is the information note on the full year performance update on 3Cs for 24-25, which will be given by Councillor Val Bryant.
Thank you. Good evening. I'd like to give the committee a full year performance update for 24-25 for the 3Cs, comments, compliments and complaints. You have an information note from Chris Jeffrey, who is the Customer and Digital Services Manager, on pages 27 to 40 of the report pack, plus you have appendices A and B. I'd first of all like to start by giving some pure statistics on the service so far. So in purely statistical terms, the number of compliments received directly by the council decreased compared to the same period in 23-24. The number of complaints received by both the council and our contractors has increased. A large proportion of that has been attributed to the change of the leisure contract, which is detailed at 3.10 on the information note. The percentage of stage 1 complaints resolved within 10 days has increased to 91% against a target of 80%. It's worth noting that the percentage of interactions, collections, visitors resulting in a complaint remains below 1%. Abasa saw a noticeable decrease of complaints to minus 73% received. The council and contractors received 184 compliments across a variety of service areas, as shown in Appendix B. There were 24 Stage 2 complaints across a range of service areas, but only 9 were deemed to be justified to be taken further to senior managers. The local government ombudsman received 5 complaints in this period. The details are provided on the information note. Out of the 5 complaints, 2 were upheld with fault and injustice, and the other 3 were closed after initial inquiries, as outlined in the information note. So those are the statistics. I meet with customer service team and with Chris Jeffrey on a monthly basis. The last time was last week. And although staffing in reception has been problematic in parts of the year, it's now felt that staffing is good, but the call volume is up. Why? First of all, this year, the leisure contract change is the biggest factor. It tailed off from September to April, and then there was another spike in service and the concerns to do with that. Secondly, resident anxiety. When investigated and we tried to dig a bit deeper about why there were so many calls, we came across things like, I'll just give you a couple of examples, that the council tax reminders last week involved residents using a new reference number. And a lot of residents couldn't find the number. They had 2 numbers. There was the old and the new number. I may have got that slightly wrong, on the same letter. And so we're looking deeply into this to try and make sure that in future we actually preempt possible anxieties like this. Another example is the garden waste invoice, that residents received their garden waste invoice. That was fine. When they looked at it, they were concerned it might be a scam. And this is after the police had actually put out the Hearts Connected email about scams and how to deal with it, which was to actually contact the business by phone. And when we looked at it, indeed, you may consider it might look like a scam, something else we've got to look at. So what we intend doing about this is to actually realise that we need some human blind testing before the documents go out from various of the services, to actually try these out on residents to check that in fact their perception of the documents is the same as ours, particularly when it comes to form building. And what I've suggested to the officers is that we have a resident panel. Now, we've already got one overall resident panel, but this would be of a handful of local people who, as part of the testing environment before a form is brought in or an app is brought in, would actually look and see from their point of view if they can actually pinpoint these things which become anxieties later on. Another thing we're looking at is the digital inclusion work. As you will know, that now there is a funding stream on the budget this year for digital inclusion. So we can look at the people who are digitally excluded and try to, first of all, get the data on them, find out what kind of people they are, how they think that, how they're excluded, and then work our way to actually how we can incorporate our services to support them. And you may have noticed that, for instance, in MIS on Friday, that if you read the notices from the delegated services, it actually, there's a section that says how we've communicated to residents, both digitally and non-digitally. So we're starting to look at this. So the digital inclusion work, there has been an amount, so I think it's £50,000, where we'll have an officer who will be working on this. And we also are looking at a particular external app, which we feel will be helpful to us. But on this, we are right at the beginning of this process, which is being led by Joe Duffy. The other thing we can do is to ensure that we're using AI as much as we can. So, for instance, AI telephony is going live soon, so that we'll get voice-activated inquiries, which should enable customers to actually get to the point of giving their query sooner and make it clearer for them. We're very lucky. We've got a team led by Polly Simmons, who is looking at developing apps. And again, apps so that residents can actually apply online. For instance, burials. And it seems that we have an awful lot of burials in the past. And grants. And at the moment, the grants is being tested by the community engagement team this week. This is also part of the transformation before local government reorganisation, where we know that we will need more IT, more HR, and more legal than we might imagine before the local government reorganisation shadow year. So we have a plan. We are not complacent. We're looking both in terms of staffing, the minutiae of what concerns residents, but also in a broader spectrum, how we can actually help to make things smoother by using modern technology and human technology in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bryant. I believe Chris Jeffrey is going to give us an update on the CSC as well.
Yes, thank you, Chair.
And then we'll take questions at the end. Should we take questions at the end after all that? Yeah. Or would you rather take questions now? Let's do it all at the end. I think they'll. Thank you. Sorry to bother you, Chris. Let's pick up there.
Should I do my update now?
Yes, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Yes, thank you. So just to expand on Councillor Bryant's update, I've prepared some information for the committee. So alongside the 3Cs documents, I uploaded a contact centre performance dashboard for 24-25. So this doesn't normally come to this committee. It's normally an internal management document, but the information was requested by a previous member of the committee, as there was a period, particularly Q4 of last year, where calls were waiting longer than usual to get through to the contact centre. So in this verbal update, I'll just provide a little bit more context to that. So in Q1 of 24-25, it was pretty much business as usual. And we answered 96% of calls at that time, and a high percentage of those calls were answered within 45 seconds. In Q2, we unfortunately began to experience staff shortages initially, which slowly began to impact on performance. There was a number of staff on long-term sickness and some that left the business in fairly quick succession. In the last year as well, some members of staff also moved internally to other service areas, including HR and revenues, which is, of course, really positive for the council. At this point, we were still answering a very high number of calls, as can be seen on the dashboard, as well as still seeing visitors in reception and replying to emails and live chat as we normally would. In Q3, we started to bring in temporary staff to ensure operations could continue. However, with any new staff, it does take existing staff to train those new staff, and that does reduce resource temporarily. As well, it does always take time to bring in temporary staff. Even then, when we did bring those staff in, some weren't able to commit to the timescales. Some were trained up and then found permanent jobs elsewhere. So unfortunately, it did become a bit of a cycle trying to get those staffing levels up. Luckily, we haven't experienced staffing problems to that extent before, certainly not in my time, and hopefully we won't see it again. In December 2024, the waste customer service element was brought back in-house to the council, and members of staff from the waste contractor were TUPE'd over along with the waste customer contact. Moving forward from there, contact levels in January and February of this year, February in particular, became more manageable. In February, we answered 94% of calls. However, as we moved into March, the garden waste subscription period began, causing a huge spike in contact. The digital services team had successfully delivered a new garden waste portal on the website, with plenty of online signups to date, but we found that the majority of residents wanted to pay over the phone for their subscription on this occasion. This, at the time, was on top of the already planned annual council tax billing period, which we experience every year, and historically that also causes a rise in contact. We also experience calls about the removal of litter bins across the district, as well as calls about all different service areas as we normally would. These elements combined meant we were being offered 601 calls per day on average in March, and as a comparison, in February we were offered 269 on average. Alongside the garden waste subscriptions, the new payment system had recently been introduced. We experienced some issues with some members of staff not being able to take payments through the mid-call option. This was escalated to the provider and the issues were worked through, but it did take some time, unfortunately. This issue meant that the calls regarding payments were taking longer than usual to handle, meaning customers were queuing for longer than usual. This also meant the customers were trying to contact in different ways, either by hanging up and calling again, sending an email, or coming to visit us in reception. More recently, in May, council tax recovery was sent out for the first time since last year because of unallocated payments in suspense. This again caused another big spike in contact. For the last 3 years, we've had an automated phone system in place on the revenues and benefits lines. This system provided the customer with information on the reason for their call and also offered to send them a text message with a link to the relevant form that they would need to fill in on the website. This system worked very, very well, handling on average between 50 to 60% of revenues and benefits calls. At the end of May, however, the contract was due to end and I had to change supplier and upgrade the system. Changes in technology meant that there were different options out there, and the new one now uses AI, as Councillor Bryant mentioned. So what that does is it recognises the customer intent via voice rather than a button selection. So this is a wonderful future-proof system, but it's not yet as effective as it will be, as the AI needs to be trained over time. On this round of recovery, we know that it won't be handling as much contact as it will in the future as the AI gets better and better. We also know that more recovery will be going out again roughly at the start of July, so we can expect another spike in contact. We also know that the upcoming waste service change in August will bring an uptick in contact and complaints, as it has done historically with other service changes. We're obviously aiming to get ahead of that by keeping staffing levels consistent where possible and doing what we can to get on top of email contact. Call and email volumes have remained high as we've moved into Q1 in 25-26. And I'm sure councillors will have seen the average wait times on the dashboard. So hopefully my verbal update this evening explains the reason why that wait time is longer than we would have liked. The average wait time for the whole of 24-25 was an average of 4 minutes and 10 seconds. But for the reasons outlined, recent wait times have been longer. The wait time for today was 1 minute 51 seconds. So it's just to show you how much that can fluctuate depending on what's going on at any one time. I'd also like to mention that from an internal benchmarking document with other councils across the county, 2 other councils had very similar wait times to us in quarters 3 and 4. On the flip side of that, back in quarter 1, 24-25, it shows that we had a much faster answer time than others prior to when our staffing problems began. So moving forward, and on a positive note, staffing is in a better position now, as Councillor Bryant said. We're working really closely with Chloe Hipwood and the waste team to make sure that Veolia are picking up any issues in a timely manner. Our wonderful digital services team are putting more integrated waste services live on the website for our residents to use, and also on the CRM, which will help the customer services team to process cases more efficiently. The issues with the payment system that I mentioned as well have been ironed out, so the team are able to successfully take payments during a call as required. It has been an extremely challenging time with so many things happening at the same time. Back at the start of April, I sent out a reminder to service managers to ensure that they let me know if they are due to send out any letters or invoices, leaflets, that kind of thing, with our phone number on, just so that we are more aware. And if they're due to hold any large meetings or interviews that may affect contact in reception as well, just so that we can consider resourcing as best as possible. The situation has been largely out of my control, but we've been putting things in place to manage the situation as best as possible. And we're now slowly starting to see some improvements this month. Everybody is doing what they can to return things to normal. But I feel that it's important to note that out of the thousands of calls we've been offered, we've only had 2 official complaints come through in the last 2 months regarding the wait time. I'd also like to say that it's important to remember the customer services team's health and well-being during such a busy period. It's really not an easy job to take call after call after call, all day, every day. Some calls or visits to reception end up being safeguarding referrals, which can take a real mental toll on those that handle those calls. And those calls often end up taking a long time to deal with due to how complex they are. I would like to say on record a big thank you to my team and well done. And I'm sure they will continue to do everything they can do to get us back to hitting our targets where possible. If anyone would like to come down to the customer service centre to meet the team or listen to some calls, you're more than welcome. Just drop me an email and let me know when we can arrange a suitable time for you to come down. And finally, I just wanted to mention the councillor portal stats that were also requested as part of the update. So you'll see on the dashboard that the majority of cases were completed within 6 working days. The other inquiries section are cases that come through to customer services to handle in the first instance. So looking at the 23 cases that took the longest time to complete, 10 of those cases were actually down to councillors not responding to messages from the team or from other service areas. Some of those cases were genuine back and forth, and some were down to other service areas where they may have been busier than usual, as we have been. I will be sending a reminder to all service managers to try and ensure a prompt response to those cases where possible. So I felt that this was a good time as well to remind all councillors this evening to please try and use the councillor portal to log cases for your constituents, as this is the best way to get your case logged to the right area. And it also ensures that staff emails aren't getting more clogged up or even lost. So if you require access to the councillor portal or the user guide, please just let me know. Thank you.
Thank you so much for both of those updates. Are there any questions from members for either of the people? Councillor Barnes.
Thank you, Chair, and thanks for the very detailed explanation of the various issues there. Clearly a pretty challenging period. In terms of the number of calls that were offered, do you have any information on how many sort of different people or maybe different phone numbers that that affected? Or was it lots of people calling multiple times? There was a big jump between Q3 and Q4.
We would have to do a delve into the. Sorry. We would have to do a delve into the phone numbers within the phone system to see if there were multiple calls. So that may take some time, but I could potentially have a look at that for you.
Okay. And then another question, do you have a KPI for the wait times at the moment?
Yes, so the KPI is to answer 80% of calls within 45 seconds.
Sure, okay, that's enough. But I mean, so the average wait time?
The average time, no, that's just the only KPI we have around wait times.
Okay. Cool.
Councillor Barnes again? No, that's gone. Councillor Clayton.
Thank you, Chair. Just wondering, with regards to the AI, which you both touched on, it obviously there's lots of potential with AI, but I'm also conscious that Councillor Bryant, you were saying that some of the issues in some cases have been that people have like things have not gone the way people have expected. They've received things that they thought were maybe misleading or didn't work as well as they could have done. So, for example, getting emails that people thought were spam. Was there any sort of work done with the AI system to ensure that people had a sense of how to use it? And is that something that's being sort of followed up?
And AI, you've got to think about now and the future. We're not really talking about 24, 25 for AI. We're actually getting systems in place. So the two things are actually separate. So I did give details of what's coming next, which is the grants system, for instance. So we're talking about in the immediate future, not in the past for AI.
The AI system's already in use, right?
There are some, but I don't think they're not causing the problems you're suggesting. I think the two things are separate.
Can I just jump in? Sorry.
Come in.
So the spam email that was referred to, that came from the well, it wasn't a spam, just to point out.
Yes.
it was an email that came from the new payment system, and it was an invoice for, I think it was garden waste direct debits from memory. Chloe, apologies if that's incorrect. But it was an email that went out, and unfortunately it wasn't edited to be customer friendly. It was still very much a template that came from the new system. So that has now been addressed by the accounting team. Any future emails that are going out look like an email from North Arts Council. The AI that's been mentioned is on my side of things on the revenues and benefits line, and we're also introducing it on the waste line. As I say, the customer asks their inquiry. They'll say, I want to log a missed bin, or I want to apply for a single person discount. The AI will recognize that intent and it will provide the information to them, and it will still offer them a text message to get a link to the website if they want to go off and fill that in, or they can come through to the contact center if that's what their preference is. So we're not blocking anyone from doing what they want to do. The AI is also being used on our chatbot on the website. So those elements only went live on the 29th of May. So they're still very much in the training period. But so far, I haven't received any complaints about those.
Okay, thank you. But it will be monitored in the future in terms of feedback or how people find that system?
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Ward.
Oh, thank you, Chair. Thanks for the reports. That was fascinating. My first time at this, and I was saying when I have raised things on the portal, I found that the response times have been very effective in terms of going back to our residents. So thank you. I just pick up on your comment about forward-looking resource profiles for staffing of the call centre, and maybe a bit of challenges or frustration in doing that. I was wondering what could be done to improve that process. So I would think most of the things the council does, we know about well in advance that hit the public. So it ought to be a straightforward-ish process to be able to get that information and try and plan the capacity and address potential shortfalls in it. So just wondering what do you think could be improved, and who would need to do what, whether with the officers or service directors or the cabinet members or anybody else to help improve that?
Shall I answer that? I think that is at director level. I think you're absolutely right. These things should be absolutely obvious, but in fact, they're not. And what we need to do is to make sure that in terms of comms, that we're looking at the timelines for each new eventuality, and that we look in terms of pinch points. And 2 items which are going through customer service at the same time can cause that pinch point. So that's one of the things that we are looking at.
Thank you, Councillor Billing.
Hiya. I myself, I worked in a call centre for absolutely years, and personally, I absolutely hated it. It was a horrible time sometimes with customers you get in a gas and energy company. So that was great. So you're doing an amazing job. Thank you so much. I know from my time from working in a call centre that some calls can take a lot longer than others. I remember a call I was on for about an hour. So I was just wondering what the average time of a call is, because obviously that will affect how often a call can get answered. Thank you.
I don't have that information to hand right now, but I could run that off for you tomorrow, and I could email that across to you if that's okay.
Thank you.
Councillor Barnes.
I've got a few questions, if that's okay. So the first set is in relation to the Everyone Active spike that's referenced in the report. It says that complaints are higher than they were the year before, and a lot of that is due to the mobilisation of the contract last spring. Has that returned to normal now? Is the first question. The second question was around the SLA and the waiting times, and the fact that a high level of those that have gone beyond the SLA are in that area, and is there anything we can do on that as well? And then the third question that I've got in that area is just around service performance, more generally in terms of customer satisfaction. Are Everyone Active collecting that sort of data at this point, and can that be shared in future?
I think most of those are Chris's. I have had the conversation with Christine Crofts and Comms about Everyone Active and collecting data, and I cannot remember the answer to it, so I will let you know tomorrow. The rest is Chris's.
So there has been a decline in complaints over the year for across all sites for Everyone Active, particularly since September 2024. There was a peak then, and this information I was provided by the leisure team. So on the 1st of September 2025, a dishonour charge for lane swimming was introduced at the centres to stop people from booking sessions and not attending. This was customers do not have to book in advance if they are unsure if they would be able to attend in time. This does not affect casual or family swims. If there are extreme circumstances, members can contact Everyone Active to discuss removal of the dishonour charge. However, this did increase the level of complaints from those who received a charge. So that happened in September. And then September onwards, there's a nice downward curve on a graph that I've got here that I'm happy to share that shows the complaints have tailed off. Your second question, Councillor Barnes, could you repeat that for me? Sorry.
Yes, it was around the waiting time for the resolution of the issues that were raised in relation to Everyone Active. It says that a lot of it's because we're waiting for Everyone Active to respond. Is there any levers that we've got that we can use to speed that up?
I'm happy to speak to the leisure team. It's not information I have to hand, but I can request that information.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I have one question, I think probably for Chris here. As somebody who also is responsible for staffing a helpline, I do understand that, as Councillor Billing said, it is a very stressful and demanding role. And I also thank the staff that have been delivering this. It can also be frustrating when you know you're not delivering a service as well as you would like to. And these numbers, in terms of percentage answered and wait times, must have been frustrating for staff as well. And I just wanted to ask, how is morale now? Is that in itself a risk for further staffing loss? And is there any provision for mental health support for the team who are delivering the service, the vital service for our council?
The morale is good at the moment because we have those numbers of staff up to where it should be to help us answer those calls. We do have a number of temporary staff, but the staff that we've brought in are of a high caliber, of course. So when the contact center is full, there's a bit of a buzzy vibe, and it does help bring that morale up, which is really good. We've obviously got our team leader on hand to help with any issues, and we have a senior customer service officer as well. So we feel that the structure is there, and it is a supportive structure for our staff. There is the council's EAP that staff can call if ever they did need to speak to someone that's perhaps anonymous rather than the management team. But we, of course, make ourselves open for those chats. And we do find that the staff will just come and find us if they do need to take a breather for 5 minutes, if they've had a particularly difficult call. So yeah, I would say so, that the morale is good at the moment, and particularly well, today call volumes were manageable, so that obviously does help. But yeah, we are doing everything we can do to support the staff.
Thank you, Councillor Barnes.
Sorry, just one more question to follow up on the everyone active. Do you have any information about how it compares to when we had SLL running the leisure centres? Are the complaints now they're at a more normal level and have kind of evened out? Is it comparable to what it used to be, or is it higher or lower?
Again, I'd have to grab those stats separately, and I'm happy to send those over to you. I'd have to speak to the leisure team.
Yeah. Okay.
And Councillor Clayton, please.
Thank you. It's great to see in the Appendix C some of the sort of concrete service improvements that have been put together in response to some of the issues. I'm just wondering, with regards to the other data, the compliments and the comments, are there concrete ways that we're actually putting that data to use? Maybe spreading good practice between teams, or otherwise sort of making use of, because it's easy to react to complaints, or not easy perhaps, but it makes sense, right, to react to complaints in terms of this is not going well, we need to put it right. But what about how are we learning from where things are going well?
I'm having to think about this one. Councillor Clayton. I think that the complaints are actually put onto the hub each week. Is that true? Yes, the compliments. Sorry, not the complaints, the compliments. So they're actually seen by other staff. But how we're using them, I will take that away and think about it. Thank you.
And Councillor Bartworth.
Thank you. I think one of the bits of feedback that I've had quite a few times from residents is that they felt that the resolution on the phone, or maybe just getting through on the phone, hasn't been effective or sufficient. So how often is it the case that somebody actually walks through the door for that reason? Do we know?
By quarter on page 39 of the agenda, and it has shown a huge increase in quarter 4. And is that was that in relation to not being able to get through on the phone? Was that what you were explaining earlier, Councillor Bryant?
I haven't got that data. If Chris has.
Chris, was that from your sheet?
Yeah, so reception visits were outlined on the dashboard, and it obviously did show a big uptick in customers coming in. We do log those contacts on our internal CRM, and it's subjective, but we do try to capture the customer's sentiment. So whether they were unhappy, just okay, or happy. So we do have that data that I'd be happy to run off. It would be very difficult to go through every case as to why customers came in. We do log what's known as a quick call. So if customers just come in for information, then we log that in a quick way, and that's where we capture the customer sentiment. But if it's a more complex inquiry and it requires a case being logged, then we would have to go into individual cases to see what they were about. So it's not the easiest thing to report on. But I think, as I mentioned in my update, we did see customers or residents coming into reception because they were unable to get through on the phone during that very busy period, which I understand. But I'm glad that we were open to be able to see them face to face if that's the method that they preferred.
Thank you. Councillor Ward?
Oh, thank you. Chris, it was just a follow up on that comment about the sentiment. I wouldn't suggest doing this on the front desk, but on the telephones. I don't know if the new system you're using with the AI built into it can do sentiment analysis. It's a classic use case for AI systems monitoring calls for call centres, that it's extremely good at picking up on sentiment of conversations and providing managers with really good feedback.
I don't believe that's part of my contract, but I think it's a great idea, and I am aware of the concept. So I will run that past my contact at the company just to see if that's an option. Yes, I agree that would be an interesting concept.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. And Councillor Clayton?
Thank you. Just on the councillor portal figures, with that sort of other category, I'm just wondering, is there any scope to revisit how things are classified in the councillor portal? There have been times where I've been logging something where I feel like it probably should belong somewhere other than other, but I can't find a concrete place for it, so it ends up going into other. Would it be worth revisiting how things are classified on there?
Yes, more than happy to take any feedback that anyone has on the councillor portal. As the manager of the digital services team, I kind of have that direct contact, so we can do things as and when is required. More towards the end of this year, we do have a period of time set for what we're calling optimization. So we're going back to some of the older processes and apps that we've built, and we can improve those because the team's knowledge has improved so much over the time. So anything like that, we'd be more than happy to hear about it, and yeah, make that possible for you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I can't see any more questions. This is your last chance. I'd like to thank Councillor Bryant and Chris Jeffrey for those reports. We don't vote on this, do we? This is simply that we have noted and commented, and I think we can then move on to item 10 on the agenda, which is the mobilisation of the waste contract, and Councillor Amy Allen is going to present an update for us.
Thank you, Chair. So members will be aware that our new waste recycling and street cleansing contract with Veolia started on the 4th of May. Contract mobilisation has gone well with minimal disruption to residents. Teams are still working hard behind the scenes on the IT integrations. The electric vehicles are delayed, but this is a manufacturer issue and is out of our control. With regards to mobilisation for service change since the report was written, over 90% of the new bins have now been delivered in North Herts. We have also now received the first draft of the proposed new collection routes, and this is currently being worked through by officers. Service leaflets are being finalised this week and they'll be sent to print. As the route changes are finalised, letters will be done and ready for printing. We are confident we have sufficient time to get this information to residents. We have now successfully recruited for the Waste Comms Officer role, and an advert is out for the Contract Officer vacancy. Any questions?
Thank you. Do members have any questions about the mobilisation of the waste contract? Councillor Barnes.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, really following on, and thank you, Councillor Allen, as well. Following on from the previous item, do you have a projection of the volume of calls we're expecting as the service change happens at the moment? That's something that we're thinking about.
I think that's going to be a Chloe answer.
Yeah, so in terms of call volumes, it is extremely difficult for us to fully predict that because even in a best performing service change where there are no hiccups, we can still anticipate some higher call volumes for which Chris is, ensuring we've got additional staff members trained up to take. However, just as a bit of an example, during the 2018 service changes, in an average 3 months, according to some stats I got off Chris a little while ago, they would take, for example, 4,000 emails over a 3-month period. During that service change, we had 19,000 over a 3-month period because of some of the glitches and data issues that we had during that service change. So it is such a vast array of difference in what could happen across a service change. Of course, we know where we went wrong last time. We are preparing by checking and double checking and triple checking data, which was a lot of the cause of the problems we had last time. But there will still be an uptick in contacts linked to residents who are still confused about the service and need some additional support. So a lot of our focus, as Chris has already mentioned, is around ensuring that those residents who can self-serve and that therefore the phone lines are available to those residents who need additional telephone support, and then anything that needs to be will be transferred to back office where contract officers, and we will have some temporary additional support from contract officers who can go out and visit and check certain issues to make sure that we are swiftly responding to those problem areas if we experience any.
Thank you. Councillor Dennis.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Will there be any increased costs associated with the manufacturer issue around the electronic vehicles? So, for example, are we going to incur additional hire fees or whatnot for keeping diesel engines? Have we got a risk of increased fuel prices over what's previously been budgeted as well?
The short answer is no. The provision of those vehicles to us, although the council is purchasing those vehicles, is part of the Veolia contract. So we're still, as I say, working on what that delay might be, but at this stage there are no additional costs.
Thank you. Councillor Wright-Mason.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah. First, I'd like to say I've personally been very pleased with how the comms have been going. I think it'll be a big culture change for people, but I think speaking to residents, there was a lot of sort of confusion, but I think a lot of that has been put to bed by the very proactive comms. So really well done there. My question sort of was about the extra capacity households. I know it mentioned about 1,000 or so letters have either been sent or are going to be sent based on our records. I just wondered how we've sort of built those records and how we plan to maybe increase that number if there are people we've missed.
So in terms of those houses which require additional support, so we're predominantly talking about those residents who have adult hygiene project needs. So anyone who's already using our services for that is part of our database, and therefore they have been or are in the process of being contacted. We're also intending to contact some of the local medical services just to make them aware of our service change so that they can then disseminate information to residents who are unaware of the additional services we offer. But of course, just by natural osmosis, we are finding more residents coming forward who are expressing concern about their ability to cope where they are managing special waste needs at home at the moment, and although managing in the current service, feel that they wouldn't manage in the new service. So those, of course, customer service know to pass to us, and we will then add them to our list, as it were.
Thank you. Councillor Ward.
Oh, thanks, Chair. First question I've got is around digital inclusion. Again, I'm really pleased. I think Councillor Bryan was referencing earlier on some of the non-digital channels being explicitly referenced in the other agenda item. I guess when I've looked at what we've been putting out around the recycling changes, a lot of the outbound comm stuff has been really good and has referenced lots of the ways to contact people initially, but a couple of examples I just picked up where it's gone digital only again. So the FAQ that admittedly is on the website, so you need to be able to use the website. It just says all the answers to everything, just email in people, and there's no other information there about what to do. And the other one was actually on the information pack that went out with the new bins. When it came down to the bottom of what to do, it just had please follow some web addresses to go and find out more. So I just think, I know there's more comms going into your life. We can just keep an eye on making sure that the digital and non-digital options are referenced to remind people they've got ways to communicate. That'd be really appreciated, I think.
Councillor Barnes.
Thank you, Chair. I'm just noting in the risk register about the MRF contract. Are you able to give a bit more of an update on that and what the impact of that risk is?
Yeah,
please.
just open the risk register. See what I said. Number 20, that's helpful. Oh, okay. Yeah. So as you'll see, the probability of that is reduced to 1. Essentially, I can't put 0 in a risk register, but the contract has been procured. We're just in the process of getting that contract signed, but the contract is operational at the moment. It was our incumbent supplier who was awarded that contract, which has meant that we've had a seamless transition into the new contract, which has been great. And as I said, we're just in that process of getting the final contract signed, but we're not anticipating any issues operationally in terms of changing to the new service design either from the MERF contract.
Super. And Councillor Ward.
Oh, thank you. Different topic. Councillor Allen knows about this one. Amy, that is the new bins and stickers that came with them for the old bins. I mean, as you know, in Debworth, I've been finding there have been sporadic cases of missed bins and or stickers, and some streets now where we've actually systemically Veolia missed the delivery. I'm just wondering, from a wider perspective, obviously I've asked people to raise those specific concerns. Are we getting MI back from Veolia on the performance of their kind of rollout of the new bins and the information? And if so, what's that highlighting in terms of how they're getting on in their performance and readiness for the 4th of August?
So in terms of how we're getting on, as Councillor Allen's already updated, we're around 90% through the North Herts bins. The majority of the ones that are still outstanding are where we've had glitches, where residents have identified missing areas, and we're checking those through. That will continue obviously over the next 4 or 5 weeks, where we identify the odd property that perhaps has been missed. But there is a chunk which was always going to be done at the end, which are the more complex. So those are properties that are communal, so they're all last, as it were, and also the properties that will be having the paper and cardboard sacks rather than bins, because they've got no off-street storage. So those are also being done last. But we are aware where residents are ringing to tell us there have been issues. We've got those on a separate log, and again they're all being sort of mopped up at the end rather than interrupting the main rollout. So that will be done over the next few weeks, hopefully. But if you've got any particular concerns and you want us to check anything, we have got a list of all the deliveries that have occurred, which we can check against, and also check whether anything's on the to-do list or missing from that to-do list. So yeah, please do let us know via the members portal and we'll get it checked out.
Thank you. Can I just ask a question? And it's a little bit cheeky. And my question is, what's the thing that's worrying you most at this point? So I look at the risk register and I can see that there's a lot of things that are red, and there's a lot of mitigation, there's a lot of activity happening, and I can see you're having to be across an awful lot at the moment. But is there anything in particular that stands out as something that you feel you need more support on, or you are particularly concerned about?
I think it's fair to say waste service changes are massive and shouldn't be underestimated, which is why we still have red risks on the risk register. We're never going to be able to get rid of them all. It is about also our ability as a team, as a council, as a service, to cope under pressure. The team obviously is pressured, but most of us have been here and done it before, so we know what we're letting ourselves in for. One of the things that obviously is an additional impact is that we've actually got greater service changes over at East Herts happening at the same time as the North Herts changes, whereas last time it was mainly North Herts that had the changes, and East Herts were sort of business as usual. So this is a slightly bigger service change because it's across 2 districts. I suspect that residents in East Herts will find it more challenging because it's a bigger change for them. They are having a smaller residual waste bin, as well as 3 weekly collections and the introduction of food waste. So it's a very big change for East Herts residents. But of course, we're not underestimating what may or may not happen here. And our biggest priority is having plenty of opportunity to check data. We know that the IT is critical to ensuring that residents don't see miscollections, for example, and things like that. So much of our priority is on data checking over the coming months, because if we can get the data right, it will limit the impacts, and we can then focus our time on supporting those residents who need our help with the service change, rather than trying to fix what I'd call day-to-day issues like miscollections, which have resulted because of something like data errors. So that's why our priority, for this sort of 3 months of mobilisation is, dealing with those residents who haven't been able to find their address when trying to use the online forms, for example. It's us checking, well, what's the root cause of that? Is it a data issue? Fixing that so we won't have those problems going forward.
Many thanks. Councillor Allen, were you wanting to come back on that as well?
No, sorry, thank you, Chair. Not on that. I was going to come back to Councillor Ward.
Oh, okay.
Just
Please
quickly,
do.
sorry. I wasn't very quick on the button. Paul, I just want to say thank you very much for the emails you've been sending in regarding issues that you've been having in your ward. I can see that you've been literally out in the streets, you've been knocking on doors, you've been talking to residents, and you've been gathering information, which is, vital for us, if, so that we know what's happening, if we, just in case something gets missed, because at the end of the day, errors occur. So being told information that's vital is really, really helpful, and I really appreciate it. I've had similar emails from other councillors as well, just sort of like updates on things and stuff like that, which is usually shortly followed by, oh, the bins have arrived, just lately. So but no, have really appreciated your interaction, Paul. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And Councillor Barnes.
Thank you, Chair. I was just going to ask a question about the litter bin removals, the public litter bin removals. What's still left to do on that? And also, have you seen any localized increases in litter since the bins that were removed have been removed, or is it all pretty smooth?
We've still got a small number of what we've classed as sort of hard to remove litter bins. So those are the ones where we needed some pavement reinstatement, for example, to be done. We couldn't just take the bin away and leave a hole. So there's a few of those still to be done. And we're also combining that with a look at where some of the dual recycling bins are. And we've also got some new ballot bins to put up. I don't know if any of you have seen those, but those are big, bright yellow bins where if you are a smoker, you can use your cigarette butt to vote on a particular question. And there's been some popular ones of those on social media. So we've got a few of those to go up as well. In terms of additional litter, Anecdotally, I can say no, we aren't getting increases in complaints. Obviously, where we are getting concerns from residents about a removal, it tends to be just about the removal rather than an increase in litter at this stage. But officers are, of course, still monitoring, and we're also still in that process of developing the new cleansing schedules with Veolia. So we've got plenty of opportunity to, move resources about over the coming months to make sure we've got it right.
Thank you. I don't see any more questions. So I think I'd like to thank you both for those for the presentations, and I think we can move now to the overview and scrutiny annual report, which Councillor Barnes will be presenting.
Yeah. Thank you, Chair. I will keep this brief. The report sets out the details of the committee's activities last year, and my forward sets out my thoughts on some of the notable achievements that we made. So I won't go over that in detail, except to thank everyone who contributed to that work last year, and in particular to Jeevan for her hard work and application. Coming into a new role is never easy, but you've done a very good job, and I think the committee's getting from strength to strength because of it, and I'm sure that Councillor Winchester and Claydon are already realising that too. Just lastly to say, I'm very pleased that Councillor Winchester has stepped up. I really enjoyed my year as Chair of Overview and Scrutiny, but it's good to have some new blood into the position, and I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you so much, Councillor Barnes. Yes, I absolutely would like to also thank Jeevan for making the transition so smooth, and thank you to everyone. Does anybody else have a question about the report? Councillor Daniel.
Thank you. Just before you move on to the questions, I just wanted to take a moment to thank you very much, Matt, for your work with Overview and Scrutiny last year, and for all the officers and councillors that were involved. The whole point is to have you keeping us to account, and we massively appreciate it. There's been some really good ideas that come forward from Overview and Scrutiny that we've taken on, and we do really appreciate all the work you do. So thank you. And Claire, I look forward to working with you going forwards.
Thank you, Daniel. Any further questions? Were you about to press your button?
Yes.
Okay. Councillor Clayton.
I don't have a question, but I just want to reiterate thanks to Matt and to Tom for being excellent Chair and Vice Chair last year, being very supportive and easing me into the process of sitting on this committee as a new councillor who didn't know one end of one of these microphones from another. So thank you very much for that. And yeah, we will do our best to maintain the standard that you've set over the last year, which has been very high. Thank you.
Super. Thank you. So the recommendations are that the committee 2.1 consider and comment on the annual report of the Overview and Scrutiny Committee 24-25 as attached to Appendix A prior to consideration by Council. And could I have a proposer and seconder? Thank you, John.
I'll propose it.
And thank you, Matt, to second. We can move to the debate if anyone has anything to debate. I don't see anything, so I think we can move to a vote.
That motion is carried, Chair.
Thank you. So we can move to item 12, which is the Overview and Scrutiny Work Programme, and Jeevan Mann will present for us.
Thank you. Following the work programme training delivered by the Centre of Governance and Scrutiny on Tuesday, 13th of May, members met to agree on the initial work programme for the civic year 25-26. Details of this are attached in Appendix A. Pay on exit parking and town centre strategy items were scheduled for today's meeting. Officers have advised reasons for deferral, full details of which can be found in the supplementary documents online. I'll give you a brief overview. So for pay on exit parking, the previous chair and of an ONS requested a detailed update for this meeting, including a range of data and comparisons. Officers identified only a limited amount of information would be available by the report deadline, and this sample would likely be skewed by the settling down period. A report will be prepared for the next meeting of ONS, where officers will have at least 3 to 4 months worth of data. In the interim, officers will prepare this and circulate to members an update on the implementation of the new machines and arrangements being put in place to address issues. The update will be circulated by the end of June. For the town centre strategy, officers presented an overview of the town centre strategy to the Strategic Planning Board on 20th of May 2025. The board's members recognised the need for a more policy-weighted strategy supporting a robust, sorry, it's a bit lengthy, supported by robust evidence based in order to respond and guide future development proposals. The board recognised that further work needed to be undertaken following the discussion around the priorities for the town centre. The draft strategy was withdrawn from the 24th of June 2025 Cabinet meeting. The draft town centre strategy will be presented to a full meeting of overview and scrutiny prior to Cabinet in the work programme. Members are reminded that they can suggest any topics for the work programme or task and finish groups in this meeting to the Chair or Vice Chair or by emailing the Scrutiny mailbox. I'll give you a quick update on the Section 106 task and finish group. Members of the task and finish group met on Monday, 30th of April to finalise the scoping documents. Members will next meet to discuss the scope of the document with the strategic planning officers and address any questions regarding the scope with the communications officer to discuss the consultation. This meeting is in the process of being scheduled. With regards to LGA peer review, the peer review actions are now included as Appendix C to the report so that members can view the progress of actions. Decisions and monitoring tracker. Information regarding referrals is detailed in the ONS decisions and monitoring log. These are now complete and will be closed from the log. That's all, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you for that. So do I move the recommendations straight away? Or are there questions? If there are questions on that, on the overview. Thank you for those little updates as well regarding the 2 items which are sadly postponed. I hope that's clear and do ask if it's not. Are there any questions? In that case, we go ahead. Oh, there we go. Councillor Ward?
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to understand a bit more about the town centre strategy and the reasons behind why it's delayed. I understood what you just said, but I was also looking at the budget information at FAR for tomorrow, and it looks like there's been some underspend in that area. Are the things related in terms of delays with the consultants or the timing of what's going on? I was just wondering what the underlying cause is behind that.
Yeah, so as far as I understand, the proposal that went to the project board wasn't the latter part of it needed further work before it could go to cabinet, and that's why it's just been deferred. So officers can do that and bring it up to a better standard, I guess. So it's
not a fundamental problem with it. It's just it's a bit late.
I think it just needs a little bit more development work.
So Daniel Allen.
If you want, Chair, I'm happy to comment on this as
That sounds like it would be helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. Basically, we had it all come forward, and the members of the project board felt that it wasn't representative enough of our towns. As it was coming through, what we saw was very relevant. It was very good work, but it didn't feel specific to our individual needs of towns, as opposed to an entire district. So basically, there is further work being done to make sure that towns are truly represented, and we're not getting a one-size-fits-all for all of our towns. So that's why it's taking a little bit longer.
Thank you for that clarification. Are there any further questions? In that case, the recommendations are 2.1, that the committee prioritises topics for inclusion in the work programme attached as Appendix A, and where appropriate, determines the high-level form and timing of scrutiny input. 2.2, that the committee, having considered the most recent iteration of the forward plan, as attached at Appendix B, suggests a list of items to be considered at its meetings in the coming civic year. And 2.3, that the corporate peer challenge action plan, as attached at Appendix C, be considered. So could I have a proposer for that, please? Councillor Billing, thank you. And a seconder? Councillor Clayton.
Yep, happy to second.
Many thanks. So we can move to a debate on that. And Councillor Barnes, would you like to speak?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I just wanted to comment. I think it is quite disappointing that the pay and exit didn't come to this committee. The main concern was around the implementation. It would have been quite timely to do it as soon as possible. I understand the reasons that it's been deferred, but yeah, I find it a bit disappointing, and I will be following that with some interest as that comes forward. So the other thing I just wanted to say is I would really encourage, especially new members, to bring ideas for consideration onto the work programme. It's a really important thing to do. We quite often deal with it at the end of meetings, and especially some quite long meetings, and don't always get a good discussion on it. It can happen outside of the meetings too, of course. So do bring things forward if you think that they are worth looking at. The worst that will happen is someone will say no. So yeah, don't be shy. In particular, I'd just highlight the crime and disorder issues, and also the health partners as well, which we don't currently have on the work programme, but was quite informative last year. Those topics take a bit more time to plan in terms of getting the external partners engaged. So yeah, really do please have a think about that. I don't have anything to suggest right now because I want to, let you guys do it. Yeah, I'm sure I'll contribute something through the year as well.
I appreciate that, Councillor Barnes. That's really helpful. And I completely agree. Please do bring forward ideas for consideration to any of us. I think would like to make sure that this is really representing what members want to be looking at, as well as the things which are commonly achieved. So. Anything else? Does anyone have any other comments or questions or things that they'd like to talk about? So we can move to the vote. These are the things that we're going to do. Yeah, to the vote then, please.
That motion is carried, Chair.
Thanks. So it just remains to close the meeting then and remind you that the next meeting takes place on the 9th of September, a Tuesday, and see you then.